All right, so last time we talked about finding equivalent fractions. So today we're going to talk about finding comparing fractions using the butterfly method. All right, so that's what we used last week, and we're going to use that again. So we're going to compare fractions. So for instance, if I have 1/4 and 2/5, and I want to know which fraction is bigger. So in order to compare the fractions, we're going to do the same thing like we did to find equivalent fractions. We're going to use the butterfly method. So again, we're going to multiply 5 times 1. I know 5 times 1 is 5. And then I'm going to multiply 4 times 2. And I know 4 times 2 is 8. So when I look here, remember I said I want to look for the biggest fraction, right? Or the bigger fraction. So I know that 8 is bigger than 5. So that means that 2/5 is bigger than 1/4 because 8 is bigger than 5. And so you remember our greater than, less than, or equal than sign. So we're just draw an equal than sign. But we want to make sure we put our equal than sign between the fraction and not just the whole numbers. So 2/5 is bigger than 1/4. I'm going to solve some problems. So the problem we're going to solve right here, this first one. So it says 4 students were buying candy to make goodie bags for a party. The table below shows how much candy each student bought. Who has the least amount? So this is already like italicized and it's bolded. So I know that least is very important. So least means my smallest. So least is my smallest. If it said my the most, then I know that's my biggest. But right now I'm looking for my smallest fraction. That's what I'm looking for. So if you notice here, Keisha has 3/5 of a pound of candy. So I like to just write it as a fraction, right? So just rewrite it as a fraction. Joanne has 3/6. Bobby has 3/8. I'm gonna put his right there. And then Amy has 3/2. All right. So halves, that's how halves looks. So we're trying to figure out who has the least. All right. So we're going to start with, you always start with 2 and then think of it like a boxing game if you're trying to find the smallest. And we're just going to keep working it out to see who has the smallest fraction. That's the biggest thing. So we're first going to do 3/5 and 3/6. All right. We're looking for the smallest. So again, butterfly method. So what will I multiply first? Great. 6 times 3. 6 times 3 is 18. And then 5 times 3 is 15. Which one's the smallest? 3/5 or 3/6? Good. 3/6 is the smallest. So that means that I'm putting my arrow right here too. 3/6 is smaller than 3/5. So that means I am going to cross out the biggest. I'm going to cross out Keisha because 3/6 is smaller than 3/5, and I'm trying to find my smallest fraction, right? So then I want to erase this. So then I know Joanne is smaller than Keisha. Well, let me see if Joanne is smaller than Bobby now. All right. So I'm going to do 3/6 against 3/8. All right, let's cross multiply. 8 times 3 is what? Good, 24. 6 times 3 is 18. Which one is smaller, 24 or 18? Great, 18 is smaller. So that means that I'm putting my arrow like this. My mouth opens up to the bigger number. So 3/8 is smaller than 3/6. So that means I have to cross out 3/6. Ooh, Bobby is smaller than Joanne. So now the last one is Bobby and Amy. So we have 3/8 against 3/2. So let's do 3/8 and let's do 3/2. Remember, we're trying to find the smallest. So I'm going to do the butterfly method. 3 times 2 is 6. And then what do I multiply next? Great, 8 times 3 is 24. Which one's the smallest? Great, 3/8 is the smallest. So that means, I'm going to cross out Amy. That means since 3/8 is the smallest, that's my answer. So Bobby is my answer. Who has the least amount of candy? Bobby has the least amount of candy. So you see how I work that out. I always start at the top, the first two, eliminate the one that is not the answer, the best answer, then go to the next two. So let's see about this problem right here. It says Ryan Astrius want to visit Charlotte. Ryan lives 2/5 of an hour from Charlotte. Astrid lives closer to Charlotte than Rye. Which of the following could be how far Astrid lives from Charlotte? So this is very important right here, closer. If you ever see the word closer, think of the smaller number, right? So you're always thinking about the smaller number when you think of closer. Um, so think about, and then think about, this is Charlotte, right? These are like my cities in Charlotte. All right, so this is Charlotte, and Rye lives 2/5. So imagine me drawing this out for you. Just want to make a video, a picture for you in your head. So this is 2/5. So Rye lives 2/5 away from Charlotte. Astrius lives closer to Charlotte than Rye. So I know that Astrius lives closer. So that means he lives closer. That means it has to be smaller. So it has to be smaller than the shaded 2/5, right? So I need to figure out which one is smaller than 2/5. So we're gonna first do, we can draw it out and figure out. We can do 5/10. So I'm gonna show you both ways. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's try 5/10. If I were to shade in 5/10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so if I were to do 5/10, I know that 5/10 is a little bit bigger than 2/5. So we're trying to find closer, so smaller. So it won't be 5/10. 1 hour is a whole thing. So that means shading in the whole thing. If I shade in this entire thing, obviously that's bigger than 2/5, right? So it can't be a whole. And then 1/5, if I were to do 1/5, 1/5, oh, this is 1/5. Is 1/5 smaller than 2/5? Yeah, it looks like it, right? So I'm gonna put a maybe right there. And then 20 over 20 is one whole again, right? We know 20 over 20 is one whole. So that's saying, imagine I had 20 of these lines, but shading the whole thing is one whole. Is that smaller or closer to Charlotte? No, it's not. So I know my answer is C. The other way to solve this, again, is to use the butterfly method. So we can set 2/5 up against each one and see which one is smaller than 2/5. So if I do 2/5 against 5/10 first, what do I multiply first? Great, 10 times 2, which is 20. And then 5 times 5 is 25. Ooh, I notice that 5/10 is bigger than 2/5. We're trying to get smaller. So I know that 5/10 cannot be my answer. So then if I try 1 hour, which is one whole, right? So I can do 2/5 against 5/5, 4/4, 3/3, whatever you want. So I'm going to do 5/5 because my denominator is 5. So when I multiply this, 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 5 is 25. See? One whole, which is 5/5, or whatever fraction you want to do to make a whole, obviously is greater. So I know that can't be B. So I'm going to try C. 2/5 against 1/5. What am I multiplying? Good. 5 times 2 and 5 times 1. So 10 and 5. Ooh, I noticed that 1/5 is less than 2/5, and that's what I was looking for. So 1/5 is closer. So it's about organization, making sure you organize visual aids to help you, your fraction strips, or you can use the butterfly method to compare fractions. All right. All right. So let's look at this very last one. So Valerie, Chris, Jaden, and Racinda are coloring a picture. The following chart shows how much of the picture they have colored. Out of these friends, who has colored more? Ooh, see how more is italicized? So I know that more is the most, the biggest, right? The biggest fraction. All right, so which one do you think is the biggest fraction? All right, so we're going to look and see. So again, what do we do first? We start with the first two. So we're going to go 1/4 and 1/8. Again, you can draw this out, or you can do the butterfly method to see which one is bigger. So 1/4 and 1/8. 8 times 1 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. Which one's bigger? Good. 1/4 is bigger. So that means I have to cross out Chris because we're trying to find the biggest. All right, so then we're going to do 1/4 Jaden, Valerie against Jaden. So 1/4 and 1/10. So I know 10 times 1 is 10. 4 times 1 is 4. Which one's bigger? Good, 1/4. So that means I have to cross out 1/10. So now I have 1/4 against 1/6. The most is the biggest. So 1/4, 1/6. 6 times 1 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. Which one's bigger? Good, 1/4 is bigger. So I know that Valerie is my answer because she has the most. So this is how you compare fractions, okay? You guys did excellent today on comparing fractions. You either use the butterfly method or drawing it out.